Well, the afternoon here in Sutton Park is mild but very, very wet. The rain has just started to fall. The course will be muddy and slippy and bumpy for this 1 hour plus 1 lap distance. A field of 84 riders are in this big entry, and this congested road start is quite a problem. And the opening lap is slightly shorter than the normal circuit. This gives the big field an opportunity to be able to sort themselves out. Well, early pace setter at the front is Gary Coltman. New professional, he turned professional just last Thursday, and Coltman more famed for his track expertise. In fact, he is actually the quickest rider over the kilometre distance, with a 1:05 to his credit recorded in the World Championships in Colorado. This is why he's a good starter. But on his wheel is David Baker. Baker is riding well. He's had a good start. Baker then of the Ace Racing team in second place. But you can see already the heavy conditions. The course all churned up after the junior race this morning. So Baker, the early leader. Silver medalist last year. He's had a good start. Behind him is Robert Dane. I'm looking for the champion Douce. That looked very much like Douce going past Coltman on the outside and moving up into third place. This is probably the easier section of the riding. Baker still in the lead. Dane just a couple of lengths off Baker's wheel. So Baker was training on this course earlier in the week with his teammate Tim Gould, and they said that in places it was very, very muddy. But Sutton Park, so famous for its sandy surface, although we've had a lot of rain over the last week, it tends to drain away and still give the competitors a fast race. But they're still heading towards the muddy section. That's due to come after the next descent that they are now approaching. Baker will be dismounting now. He'll never ride up here. No, he's off. Bike onto the shoulder. And these are the frustrating parts. There's the defending champion Douce. He's back in fifth spot at the moment. And it looks like Barry Clark, another one of the favourites, in third position. So all the expected front runners have made a good start and are near the front. And this race, it's so important today because the selectors are watching the event, and they will be making their final selections when the race is over for the forthcoming World Championships that will take place in Switzerland at the end of the month. And there are only 4 places available, so it's going to be quite a battle between Baker, Barnes, Clark, Dane, Gould and Young for these places. Now this is the very boggy section along the side of Plants Brook, and there's a contrast in styles here. Clark is running all the way. Baker seems to have found a nice path. He's doing the riding. Thank you very much. Throws the bike into the stream. And that's the first glimpse of the second pit area, and I feel the helpers in the pits are going to be kept very busy today, cleaning all the mud off the bikes. And there's the difference between some of the back markers. They're just reaching the bridge over Plants Brook. Clark leads, Dane in second place. It really is gluey. There's the champion wearing number 1, Douce. And now they swing round the top here in the woods, round to the left, and then they go back parallel to that run-up. And these back markers will already be totally demoralised, as they will see just how far behind the leaders they are. Here's some of the riders right at the back, still only just coming to the bridge over Plants Brook, near to the pit area. One of the Elizabethan riders there, Vernon Goodridge, he said this is possibly his last race, and I don't blame him. So with another hour of racing for these characters, you can see that they'll definitely know they've been in a battle. Still a lot of congestion. One of the riders left him to have straight handlebars there. There's quite a spirit amongst these cyclocross riders. Everybody. There's an interesting character. That was Mick Eyes, Veterans champion, just went through. So Baker still in the lead, heading towards Death's Drop. That's about a 1 in 3, that. No fears for Baker. Oh, rutty and dangerous at the bottom, but the Sheffield rider makes nothing of that out the other side. He's got Clark with him for company. This is the third place man, Robert Dane. Now where's the champion? This is Dane coming out of death drop. It's awkward there, there's a little lip on the top. So that was Glenn Coltman, the brother of the early leader Gary Coltman. And there is Gary Coltman chasing his brother. So here is Baker leading onto the road, followed by Clark, and the champion is in third position, about 25 metres between them. And this is a very good start by the silver medalist last year. Nice respite from the heavy going as they come down this road section. This is the posse of riders, the top riders in this winter discipline from the whole country. So leading through is Baker, followed by Clark, followed by Douce. Just nipping past Douce is Chris Young, and this really is going to be a needle match. Baker still at the front. Now they're back onto the circuit proper. And when they come round this left turn here, there's a horrible ascent that's about a 1 in 6, and on grass that really is going to be hard. They'll be going for those low gears to ride up this one. And remember the distance of the race, it is 1 hour plus 1 lap. So there's a lot of stamina will be required, and pacing your effort, because it gets progressively harder and more of a slog. And it really is churned up, as I said a little earlier, from the junior race that took place this morning. So 3 of the Paragon Racing Team Peugeot in that leading group. So the team prize at this stage looking pretty academic. So the situation after 1 lap, David Baker, Barry Clark, Steve Douce, the defending champion, Chris Young, Robert Dane and Tim Gould. These were the leaders under the limbo pole. I must admit, this is a new introduction to the National Championships, and there were quite a few moans about it, and I know the national champion himself, Steve Douce, was not happy about having this obstacle in, but it was decided that they would retain it, and these experts make nothing of it. So the lead changes. We've got Tim Gould in the lead now. Gould in splendid form. He had a magnificent victory last week in Nottingham, where he absolutely destroyed the field and won by over 1 minute and 6 seconds. His final preparation was absolutely perfect. 2 wins last weekend for Gould, and he's timed his form to perfection. Still some of the back markers taking this awkward descent, and there's a little lip there that you can see. If you don't drop off that correctly, you could come a nasty box of tricks. So heading back to Plansbrook for the second time. And 1 or 2 of these riders have obviously done a lot of research, because they've found a different way to ride. You can see Clark there in the yellow. He's decided to run, and he's passed the rest of the leaders. So you tell me, which is the best thing to do, to run or to ride? Clark ran and passed the leaders, throws off the bike, picks up a fresh, clean one. A busy day for these helpers. Those buckets of water and brushes will be working furiously throughout the whole of the race, scrubbing the bikes clean. Douce at the moment still back in 5th position. We have a new leader, and this is Steve Barnes. Barnes, the new leader. Steve Barnes, if you'll forgive me, I think had perhaps his best season ever, 1983-84, and had his finest ever victory here in Sutton Park, when he beat the former world champion from Czechoslovakia, Milos Fisera. And since then he's always been there or thereabouts, but he's never quite won the big event, and he was out of the World Championship team last year, and he's sincerely hoping a good performance today will see him back in that team to go to Switzerland. So still leading is Barnes, coming towards death drop for the second time. He's down. Clark second. Gould third. I'm wondering where the champion is at the moment. Looks as though he slipped back a little bit. There's David Baker. In fact, he's gone now behind Chris Young at the moment has Douce, so he's not made the convincing positive start that I thought he would do. He started this event as clear favourite. That's Stuart Marshall, former World Junior Champion. Marshall starting to compose himself as he starts to grow in confidence around this course. Marshall pedals furiously out of Death Drop, away on this leafy descent, the awkward left-hander, foot down, speedway style. Back on the road with the leaders, and looking back for company is Steve Barnes. Barnes goes for the lever, goes for a bigger one. Clark's behind him. Now where's the champion? He's slightly off the pace. We're waiting for the champion. There he is. So Douce is slightly off the pace here. Now there's work to do for the Rally Banana Professional if he's going to close up. Leading is Chris Young, so we've got Chris Young, the only man to deny Douce a victory over recent years when he was champion back in '84, and he's grimacing and gritting his teeth at the front. Is Young, and Douce is sitting on his wheel. So this is quite an interesting development at this early stage. Right, Douce needs to start to move up if he's to get into contention with these leaders. This is quite a turn-up. Douce was the leader last year quite clearly, as I said, on to the second circuit. It was never passed, but now he's behind, and he's going to have to do an awful lot of work. Barnes is at the front, and the back of that group is Gould, and Gould is in magnificent form. Right, he realises by the look of it, Douce, that he's got to move up. Dives down that little descent. He'll be quickly off, bike onto the shoulder. Douce then, toe-stepping his way up this climb. No problem at all. In fact, Young looks as though he's fighting to keep into contention. So there's the standings. Barnes leads. Clark was in second spot. Then it was Gould, followed by Baker. Chris Young was amongst them, but he had on his wheel the defending champion, Steve Douce. So coming towards the limbo pole. They make nothing of this. That really is excellent bike control. At the back of that group, number 5 was Tim Gould. There is the champion, Douce. Douce realised the danger. He's trying to get rid of his companion, that is Chris Young, and close up on that leading group. You must not drop off the pace here in cyclocross, because it is very difficult to close back up. And these narrow tracks cause lots of problems, and it is difficult to overtake. So Douce, the man with so much experience, has realised that he has got to close up. And it won't be long, I don't feel, that he's going to be off those leaders. That's Gary Coltman dropping down with Martin Booth on his wheel. But back with the leaders, they're out in the country, and they forgot about all the riders behind them. It's all about these 6 out in front now, and still leading is Barnes, wearing number 9. His teammate for Ace Peugeot is in second place. That's Baker, silver medal winner last year. Barry Clark is there. I should think the selector's job is going to be very difficult at the end of this, for they've only 4 riders to pick. And there are 5 amateurs here and 1 professional with the defending champion, Douce. So let's just keep an eye out for Douce to see whether he's made it up to these leaders. That really is a strength-sapping climb. It doesn't look much, but it really is a tester. Barry Clark in third place. There he is, the champion. So Douce realised the danger, and he was quickly into his stride, chasing hard, and he has joined them. So he's on the wheel now of Barry Clark. Clark, number 65 then, from the Surrey Road Club. Finished 5th in these championships last year. Oh, this race is really living up to everything we expected. Some of these amateur riders, Baker and Gould, have improved so much this year. They've closed the gap on the champion quite significantly. The champion, Steve Douce, in the lead, followed by Barry Clark, followed by Chris Young. Douce comes out of Death Drop, no problem. But he has decided that it's best to run round there. Remember, 1 or 2 riders earlier on tried to ride, and they had nasty little tumbles. Foot down, Barry Brigstar for 1 or 2. So just going out of sight, the back member of that group, that is David Baker, and Baker actually retired in the event last week, complaining of throat problems, and he's been to see a specialist this week who's told him he's got to have his tonsils out. So it's a shame for David Baker, but Baker is up with the leaders. So we're waiting for the leaders coming back on the road, and there we are, Steve Douce at the front, this familiar position that this confident 24-year-old champion likes, and he's on the road in fine style, pushing a big gear and opening a significant gap up. Look, this is the pursuit being led by Young. Young is doing the chasing, the Yorkshireman. Look at his head on the side. He really does try and give it all, does Chris Young. In his wheel is Tim Gould, and Barry Clark is at the back of this trio. So it looks as though we've lost David Baker for the moment, and also Steve Barnes. But Douce isn't bothered about the pursuers. He's now making this into his own personal exhibition of cyclocross riding, coming up this grassy bank that's around about a 1 in 8 and very, very soggy. Although he makes light work of it, he makes it look absolutely so easy. And there is the first rider we've just seen being lapped. Such is the pace that these specialists are setting. This is the second place rider, Chris Young, just coming into Death's Drop, with Barry Clark still firmly on his wheel. So there's quite a good battle going on here for the other medals. Tim Gould is the third member of that group, and David Baker has closed up. So 2 of the Ace Racing team are in that 4. We're waiting to see where the third place member is. Oh, Clark's down. Oh, and there's a collision. Gould has hit him. But they quickly recover, these boys. Crashes are nothing to these lads, especially with the surface being soft. It's difficult to hurt yourself. That's one of the lapped riders. That was Paul Jones of the Southwestern. You can see how cautious he drops into that Death's Drop. So these are the riders riding for third place. Tim Gould leads Clark, followed by Baker. It's the man at the back of this group, as I said a little earlier, has got to go for a tonsil operation. But this is the leader once again, diving down this difficult descent that's about a 1 in 6. This is the second place rider. This is Chris Young, number 53. Chris Young, 4th in the 83rd Junior Worlds, and he's actually placed 13th in the Senior Championships in Belgium back in 1986. Riding well is Young, a very accomplished roadman. He's hanging on to second place, but he's being pursued yet again by those 2 members of the Ace Racing team. So Young heads towards the limbo pole. It's not often we get obstacles in an event such as this, but it certainly stretched the riders for their good bike control. But he's under comfortably, so is Gould, but Gould put his foot down. Then it's Clark. Clark's benefiting the most there. He's the smallest of the riders. At the back, Baker.
Come on, Dave! Come on! Come on, Dave! Come on, Barry!
So Tim Gould, number 5, now up into third position, and he's got in his sights Chris Young. So they're starting to split up now, the leaders.
Come on, Steve!
Douce is still leading on his own.
Come on, Steve!
Then there's a gap to Chris Young. Then we're back to the third place rider, Tim Gould, and Barry Clark is in 4th position, and he's got Baker for company. That's Mark Messenger we're just catching a glimpse of. Mark Messenger from Chesterfield. He's one of the British squad members, not the elite squad, but he's one of the British squad members, and you can see the difference between his laboured style up that ascent compared to the leaders. So this is the battle for the silver and bronze. Tim Gould just takes over from Chris Young, and there's a lap rider in the pink behind, but already through over the line is the leader, that is Steve Douce, and we've got the clock ticking away on this, and it is 12 seconds for the leader. So that means that these 2 riders have started to peg back at Douce a little bit. It was 16 seconds the lap before, so the chase is on and the race is far from over. There's still a battle going on. Tim Gould, bronze medal winner last year, he's got Chris Young with him, and these 2 are still putting up a good fight. There's the leader, so you can see the gap. Certainly not cut and dried at this stage. So 38 minutes of the race completed. We're now into the second half, and the lead of 12 seconds for Douce is not decisive by any means, and this pursuit looks as though it's growing in strength. We'll catch a glimpse of the two chasers as Douce is going to come past these lap riders heading up towards the limbo pole again. Well, even the lap riders can get under comfort. Douce, well, he almost comes off, doesn't he? Just freewheels along on the left pedal.
He won that sprint, he would have been 8th. He should be now with you, David. Yeah.
So yes, the battle for second place still on. Gould at the front, followed by Chris Young.
That, in fact, I've admitted to say that Steve Knight he's flying into 12th place because he's a living champion. So I've been severely upbraided by my brother friends here.
There is Douce amongst all these back markers. Oh, and on his wheel is Mick Ives, the Veterans Champion. So Ives, who's away to defend that title I mentioned earlier next week in Southampton, is having to work hard, and he's already a lap behind the current Open champion. Down goes the bike. There's some good encouragement from his brother Philip. Gave him a fresh bike. And the champion well and truly into his stride. So there is the leader, Steve Douce. 45 minutes of the race now completed. Duration of the race, 1 hour plus 1 lap. Here is the second place rider, and that gap has closed absolutely dramatically. Tim Gould, the man, as I mentioned earlier on, in top form when he won Saturday and Sunday last weekend. He's just come back from a trip on the continent, and Gould is starting to make inroads into the lead of Douce. Gould then riding for the Ace Racing team, tipped by his manager Simon Burney before the race to me that he would revel in these heavy conditions. He's certainly not far out. Gould now well and truly after the lead of Douce. We should see him coming into shot. There he is, and that gap is coming down. So Gould is now closing rapidly onto the leader Douce. We could be in for a grandstand finish here. I wonder if Douce realises that Gould is chasing after him fast. Well, my goodness me, the last time we had this situation was at the National Championships back in 1984, and on that particular occasion it was Chris Young that caught him on the final lap and then went on to drop the champion Douce. So they're inside the penultimate circuit now, and it really is becoming an interesting pursuit. Has Tim Gould been saving himself? There he is. Gould goes round the corner. That gap is coming down absolutely dramatically. 2 laps ago it was 16 seconds. 1 lap ago it was 12, and now Gould has got the champion Douce well and truly in his sights. Now then, what is going to happen? Has Gould got the power to close up on him? We'll have to wait and see. They're on the cross-country section here where Gould can really close. You can see him. This is a pursuit par excellence then by the Ace Racing team Peugeot man. The gap is 9 seconds. 9 seconds the gap. We could be in then for a grandstand finish. 1.5 laps remaining now of this Holdsworth National Open Cyclocross Championship. So this 34th edition of the winter discipline is certainly starting to boil up to a fine finish. So there's Douce heading towards Plants Brook. I have a feeling that he will have been told about that pursuit behind, and Douce may well have been taking a breather, saving himself for the final lap. There is Gould. Gould is in shot, just jumping on his bike. There is the second place rider. That gap looks so small, but when you're riding across cyclocross on rough surfaces such as this, that gap takes an awful amount of closing. Gould picks up a fresh bike. There is Douce just about to jump over that low barrier into the woods, and the gap is closing all the time. That's a shot of the Midland champion just through the trees. That's Steve Knight. Here is the leader, Douce. The penultimate drop into Death Drop, still in the front. Now being pursued quite strongly by Gould. Now this is where Douce will have to be careful. There is Gould just dropping into Death Drop. Now, as I was saying, this is where the leader will have to be careful, because if he knows he's being pursued strongly, then of course he could make mistakes, because he will try and increase the pace, and as he tries to increase the pace, then he could make mistakes. But just judging by the positions on the course where they are, it looks very much to me as though the gap is starting to grow again. So Douce with a trick up his sleeve or two. Strength in hand, he realised there was danger. He started to allow Gould the pleasure of thinking he was going to catch him, and then straight away into the big gear Douce went and started to draw away. The leader and the defending champion, Douce, onto the road again. He will get the bell this time for the final lap. Look at the strength of the man. He doesn't look as though he's tiring, and I'm definitely convinced now he had a little bit of a breather on that lap, just to allow himself to get ready for the final circuit. Gould closed to within 9 seconds, and it looked as though at one time the Ace Racing Team rider was going to join him. A little bit dissatisfied was Gould there. He gesticulated at the judges as much as to say, well, come on, it's the last lap, let me hear the bell. And the bell did ring, and he's away over the line. There's the second place rider still pursuing him. So if Gould was to catch the leader on the final circuit, we could have a good sprint finish. But of course, he has got a lot of work to do. It is 12 seconds. Douce cannot afford to have a puncture or a fall. He must ride cautiously, and he must watch exactly the way he's going. There is the leader, dropping into that little quarry yet again. This is the final time of this ascent. Bike on the shoulder. He still looks ridiculously fresh as he goes over the top of that run-up. Just waiting for the chaser to appear. There he is, Tim Gould, bronze medalist last year. He's going one better this, and he's now up into the silver medal position. I must admit, he looks fresh himself. Douce comes up to the hurdle. Underneath for the final time. Round this little left-hander, then there's the descent and the awkward log to go over. This is Chris Young. Young has got with him for company David Baker, and that's the battle still for the bronze medal positions. There's the second place rider into death drop for the final time. This is Tim Gould, 1 place better than he was in the championship race last year. Foot down yet again, speedway style. And the gap has come down to 11 seconds again, so maybe Douce is just biding his time for a grandstand finish on the road. So we're waiting for the leader to come onto the road, and this championship will well and truly be his yet again. So there is the leader already waving to the crowd. He's in with some of the lap riders, but he knows he's got this title well and truly in his pocket. His 5th National Open Championship. Steve Douce then, the Caterham professional, riding for Rally Banana, waves to the crowd, looks back for his pursuers, over the line, no problem at all. A victory for Steve Douce. The crowd were giving him a lot of support as he came over. There's the second place finisher. That is Tim Gould. So Steve Douce, the winner, already composing himself, looking for a clean hat and towel and sponge, ready to sponge himself down. And there is his manager on the left, Paul Sherwin, congratulating him. A fine victory for Steve Douce. And once he got into the lead, there was no holding him. Early stages, well, he was biding his time, sitting at the back of the group, and he took the lead on the 3rd lap, and from then on, he was in control. For a moment on the penultimate circuit, we thought he was going to lose his lead when Tim Gould was pursuing him and got the lead down to 9 seconds, but as so often happens, these champions always have a little bit in reserve, and over the closing stages, Douce rocketed round that final lap to win the championship and his 5th National Open title. So just to reiterate the result of the Holdsworth National Cyclocross Championship, it was a win for Steve Douce. In 2nd place, the bronze medal winner last year was Tim Gould, and 3rd place went to the champion of 1984, Chris Young.
Definitely.